I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty.
You can excuse racism.
We all like to think that we would be Shirley in this instance. I'd argue, though, we all act more like Britta. You can replace the X factor of racism with any of the isms or obias that exist. Any word to supplement for being a shitty person. It's true we all have a tolerance for bullshit, whether a lot of us want to acknowledge it or not. Hey, I know I'm guilty. My redacted goat Kanye West has come out to do some horrible things, and you'll still catch me listening to his music, albeit a little sad as to what has become of Kanye.
And I wonder if you know what it is.
I bring up Kanye because if you didn't know, recently Kanye did a bad and Kanye apologized for it. Ali, why are you so vague? It's because this same exact cycle has happened a million times, and to not make the relevance of this video expire, I'm going to be vague so you can fill in the blanks with whatever the current controversy is. Am I supposed to accept his apology this time? How much am I supposed to use the context of his bipolar disorder to form my judgment? This video's purpose is not to dive into Kanye West specifically. It's more so to use Kanye West as a vessel to talk about us and our willingness to forgive, what that means in the large scale of culture, and how that breaks down to us on the micro scale as individual people. And then I'll bring Kanye back to see if I can wrap my head around how I should feel about him. To start off this conversation, I think we should start by talking about y'all fucking with the beret. I just came back from Paris. I think it looks pretty cool. By the way, thank you so much for all the love on the last video. It was my most honest video I've ever made. Coincidentally, it's the best received video I've ever done. So thank you very much if you're coming from that. And if you're new here, please subscribe and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Ali has a cool username. It helps me out more than you could think. Now back to the video. Canceling or cancel culture is a term that found predominance in 2018. Its rise was parallel to the rise of the hashtag #MeToo movement, where a lot of celebrities and average Joes in the entertainment scene and in pop culture came out saying, hey, this person in a position of power abused it and it happened to me too. This feels kind of derivative to say because it feels like everyone knows this, but this did happen almost 8 years ago now, so I'm just getting old. It was meant as a way for talent and the working class in the entertainment to be able to hold the ruling class and the decision makers accountable, and it achieved what it set out to do. People who had a myriad of fucked up shit that they did under their belt faced recourse, most popularly Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey. It was happening on all fronts of culture. I remember even on a smaller scale, there was a scandal seemingly every week with a YouTuber. I can't go back to half of the Minecraft YouTubers I used to watch because they all were talking to kids. Canceling people had different outcomes for every single person, obviously because not all crimes are created equal, therefore not all punishments should be equal. But I think this is where some of the cracks to cancel culture start showing. How is it that someone like a James Gunn loses his directorial role in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise when like a TikToker who was caught talking to a minor is still flourishing in their career as if nothing happened? Also, a lot of the attention that was being brought to these individuals was so that they faced some type of legal recourse. Unfortunately, because of these people being in positions of power, being able to afford good lawyers, a lot of them didn't even face recourse, and if they did, they faced a slap on the wrist in comparison to the real punishments that they deserved. And also, when people were getting called out, a lot of people seemingly came out either better off after their cancellation or as if they were untouched, and it's because of just how some people who were canceled took it. Hello? What? The viewer got canceled? Oh no. Dude, quick, what are we gonna do? Skip to the time code shown on your screen right now to pick how you would get out of this cancellation. You did what? You're disgusting. You did what? You're disgusting. That's weird. It's oddly quiet. Did you notice that? It's as if nothing happened. Good job, you made it past your cancellation. Weirdly enough, when celebrities have some of their biggest controversies, they're better off just not acknowledging it for the sake of their career. Because if they do, then they put a spotlight onto that, and then their fan base has to acknowledge it. And it's not just some skeleton in the closet that they can hide. Every friend group has these four: the racist, the woman beater, the Nazi, the corny. Wait. Wait, who invited this guy? Get him out of here. I bring this up because I think it's just so funny how like a Logic has faced so much more scrutiny for being corny online, and because he chose to like embrace those comments, and versus like all the 3 other guys who like have had done horrible things, but you know, they're at either their peak of their career or they still have a very like amazing career where they're seen at so highly because they just don't acknowledge the bad shit and they just keep dropping good music. And it's always this awkward conversation that comes up whenever you talk about it, right? Like, I'm gonna steal the story from my friend, but he said that he was with a coworker who was like talking to another coworker, and she was like, dang, why did you let that guy touch you like that? Why did you let that guy put his hands on you? Blah, blah, blah. I could never. And then he said, oh, but aren't you going to Chris Brown? Didn't he beat the shit out of Rihanna? But that's different. No, that's different though. A lot of fans of people who've done horrible things will acknowledge that they did horrible things, but wait, do you hear how they sound over some 808s and melodies? Ooh. I know you're guilty of this. And listen, I'm no better than thou. I'm, again, a big Kanye fan. I listen to Playboi Carti. I'd argue there's actually no way to listen to ethical music. Let me take you down this rabbit hole, okay? Again, I'll bring up Kanye West. I grew up listening to him, but I don't agree with who he is now. Also, it's no coincidence that his music sucks. So I can just say, okay, I'm not going to listen to any of his new music, and I won't buy any of his new merch. But if I were to stream his old music, he'd still be getting revenue. But Life of Pablo shaped so much of who I am as a person. So what am I just supposed to never listen to that again? Well, okay, what if I had a physical release? Then I have to buy a physical release and I'd still be giving him money. Okay, but what if I illegally downloaded it? Am I supposed to have local files filled with all the music of weirdos that I have and put them in like this local files jail that I have and only stream the non-weirdos? What if it's not just the artists? Katy Perry released a song recently with a producer who was called out for sexually assaulting a lot of women. And I think there's a lot to be said about supporting her, but am I supposed to, by that logic, go through all the credits of every single song and do a deep dive on people's past to ensure that it was 100% weirdo free? And what if I support any artist by buying their merch or their physical music, or fuck, get a tattoo of them and then they come out to be a bad guy? Yikes, I'm screwed. What if they come up on the radio or in the club or in a shopping mall? Am I just supposed to leave the store because I don't co-sign the person and who they are now? Throughout the entire map that I just drew you right now, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, okay, this is as ethical as it gets? This was a point that was brought up in Kanye's recent controversy. I know I said I wasn't going to bring up anything specific, but just for the sake of conversation, he was supposed to perform in the UK at this thing called Wireless Fest. He was supposed to perform for 3 days, and the UK government banned him. And when the Wireless people were asked, hey, why'd you book Kanye knowing all of his like horrible, repugnant shit that he's done? They said he was just coming to perform, not to spew any deranged garbage. You don't get arrested for listening to his music in public. You don't get arrested for listening to his music in private, for owning his music, for buying his music. So what's the difference between that and just playing his music at a festival? I want to be an ethical person, and I don't want to support people who are continuously doing bad stuff, but like, where do you go to draw the line? So you don't want to make yourself a hermit from culture. And I know there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, but I mean, I think a lot of people take that as a nihilistic worldview and be like, okay, I'm not going to give a fuck about anything. I'm not saying do that, but it's hard, man. It's hard to draw the line. Like Palestine's a really big issue for me. I've been trying to do BDS as best as I could, right? But it's hard. One, it's hard to always remember what's on the BDS list. Two, sometimes there's just literally no option besides the things that are on the BDS list. And three, it's really hard to draw the line sometimes on what I should boycott and what I shouldn't. Like, I was talking to my friend about this. There was that Pharrell Lego movie that came out. I love Legos. Look at what I did to my DeLorean. This is so cool. And I loved Pharrell's music, but I chose not to go because this guy is a devout Zionist. But then I was also thinking, like, okay, back to my same logic, how many people have worked on movies that I loved that have horrible fucking politics? Not just them being like a Zionist or anti-Palestine, but like, I don't know, racist, sexist, like pieces of shit. How do you ethically boycott? All right, so this is my headspace. And you can say I'm going too easy on myself. You can say that I'm doing too much. I don't care. This is how I've been able to sleep at night. And these are the boundaries that I've set to have some type of ethical consumption, knowing again that I'm probably contributing to every major piece of shit out there in the world. One, if the person is actively embracing being a shitty person, actively embracing harmful rhetoric, I am not going to support them. I'm thinking back to my Why Are All My Favorite Rappers MAGA video. Lil Pump, Nicki Minaj. You will not catch me at a Nicki Minaj or Lil Pump concert. I do not want to go to a DEI KKK rally. Two, if there's a clear alternative, go to that. I don't drink Starbucks unless I get like a gift card or something, because Starbucks' CEO Howard Schultz literally got an award for supporting the Israeli government. So like I'm good on that. And also I'm trying to get a little bougie coffee cafe experience. There's a myriad of other coffee shops. That being said, I try my best not to judge someone if they get like McDonald's on their way to work. Maybe they live somewhere where that's like one of like 2 cafes that are open and they just need that coffee to get through their 8-hour shift. I'm not going to sit here with no job telling you how to move on. And I think you can say the same thing with artists. Like if I catch you listening to R. Kelly or Nicki Minaj, like I'll make a comment and be like, oh, Nicki Minaj. But like, dude, I forget sometimes that like, oh, a certain artist did something repugnant. I'm not going to hold you for contempt for something that I might do. But I think the conversation's a bit different with corporations than people, because I'm much less willing to have empathy for corporations. But I think this whole conversation of ethically boycotting, ethically canceling, we should also have a conversation about redemption and what it truly means to have a sense of
Can we get much higher?
Before I talk about having empathy for a victimizer, I think like this conversation is post having empathy for victims of these people who perpetrate really disgusting things. In my mind, that's implicit, but obviously in the world, you know, people deny victims and what they experience all the time. So like, I think I should just say that, you know, to talk about like ethically boycotting people, I felt like there was a point that I withdrew because I wanted to talk about it here, also in the canceling section of this video, because I really don't agree with the pathway of canceling or boycotting a celebrity without having a conversation about where we go from there. The whole point is to keep people accountable, not to annex them from society, which felt like what canceling was becoming. It stopped being a unified voice for people to call out injustice, and instead like it was a weapon used for people who had a vendetta against a certain individual. When talking about canceling, I feel like there's like a lack of humanity in those conversations. And it feels like the Salem witch trials where like, okay, you fucked up. You're never going to have a chance of rectifying people's perception of who you are as a person. I feel like that's why a lot of celebrities don't even acknowledge it. Because I've seen like some celebrities try to say, hey, I did a bad thing. And then the internet's response, instead of being like, okay, thank you for acknowledging that, we'll move on, or we'll try to move on, is like, okay, then what about this bad thing? What about that bad thing? And then instead of like growing from that, people implode from addressing their problems. And that's why a lot of people just don't address it. The internet's filled with a bunch of like virtue signaling bullshit where people are saying they're greater than thou. And I always hated that because like that pompous attitude never felt real. It just felt like disingenuous. You caught someone at a low moment and you're like, ha 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 ha, I would never do something like that. By the way, I'm not trying to like excuse horrible people. This isn't a La Russell moment. He's heaven sent too. Like there are some people that I think are beyond saving. Does that kind of ruin my entire point? Maybe, but like, hey, I think every rule has an exception. Like I'm not out here saying Jeffrey Epstein or Netanyahu or Trump or Hitler are in this conversation. I'm more so talking about like forgiveness for your everyman. I'm not willing to support someone who's actively promoting harmful things and harmful rhetorics and being like an actively shitty person and displaying that. But if someone is showing a willingness to change and their actions reflect that, and it's not just some disingenuous bullshit to win favor, I personally am willing to hear that person out or willing to give that person the opportunity to rectify their actions. And I'm not trying to be dismissive of whatever fucked up shit they've done, you know? But I think two truths can exist. One, someone can have done bad things, and two, that can be not all of who they are. Look, man, I mean, I can pull an example. There's a situation that happened years ago where a pizza delivery driver got murdered while doing his job, and the guy's dad forgave him when he was in court. I don't think that made the death of his son any less impactful. I don't think it meant that he didn't love his son as much. I don't think that it means that he like gave the guy a slap on the wrist. But what he did is he gave the guy who killed his son the opportunity to have a chance to grow beyond the horrible thing that he did. A lot of us never have to test our morals. A lot of us never get pushed to the edge. Dude, I live in a house with 2 loving parents in a suburban neighborhood, and I never have to worry about a meal. I know I'm like part of the 1% of the 1% of the global population, right? If I was in a disenfranchised neighborhood where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from, where I didn't have role models in my life, where I didn't have like safety net, I don't know how I'd act when push comes to shove. A lot of us conflate our circumstance with moral purity. All that being said, how am I supposed to feel about Kanye West? Well, Kanye West, given what I just said, I should forgive him because he's apologized and he's trying to be better. That being said, he's gone through the same path 5, 10, 15 times, where he's apologized and then has done the exact same things that he's always done. But the shit also doesn't exist in a vacuum. Kanye West has bipolar disorder. And if you've ever experienced in real life living with someone or being friends with someone who has mental health struggles, you know how incredibly difficult that is. And bipolar disorder is a really crazy thing. I mean, it's incredibly hard to live with someone who has no control over their emotions. But imagine being that person who doesn't know how they're going to act. That's a terrifying position to be in. And I guess, I don't know. I don't want to, give this guy a scapegoat. He's done incredible harm. I think he has like 2 sexual assault cases on him. These aren't things that I want to like brush off or act like they're not big, especially because I'm a guy, bro. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, get over it, ladies. I guess I'm just conflicted. And I thought that by reaching the end of this video and writing the end of my script, I would reach a conclusion on how to feel about him. And I don't know if like the answer will become clear with time, because like if he has bipolar disorder, I can't act like he's never gonna, relapse into his hysteria. So I guess I'm kind of confused with Kanye. Maybe we can start a discourse in the comments about what the appropriate steps are, because I'm honestly unsure about what the proper precedent, if there is any, to take in this instance. And I guess I'll call it there. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, turn the notifications on, follow me on my social medias in the description, and check out the new single Forever that I have. It's on anywhere you can find music. Thank you so much. This has been Ali. Take care.